Hello, 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 hello. I want to show you guys an idea I made in VCV Rack. So let me just save this. I haven't even saved this yet, but I'm gonna just call this Crunch. Well, let me see what these are called. Crust. Crust beat. Okay. So I've been playing around with this. And sorry for the loud keyboard clacking. That's just how it is. I've been playing around with this thing called Crust. This is a hard-hitting drum and beyond device. It's a real thing. It's a real module, but it was added to VCV Rack, and you can do some really cool stuff with it. So let me just show you kind of basic idea. We're gonna just have this triggering at a constant rate and listening to the output, which will be in the views. Okay, default sound. Let's randomize a few times. Already crazy. So now, what you can do that makes it even crazier is, what if you start to layer stuff? And by layer, you can put two sounds on top of each other. And then you can go even more. And the more you do it, the crazier it becomes. So now, nothing's happening because we're not triggering this one, but... So I started with this idea of like kind of randomize the settings a little bit on, Crust. And then from there I was like, I wanted something that is kind of random, but also rhythmic, It's kind of a fun little idea because when you're making music, full randomness is kind of hard because our brains really like consistency. So I wanted something where overall the beat's kind of consistent. There's elements that will happen at certain times, but when those times are is not entirely clear. So let's go from the top. Basically, we start with random, and this one has a trigger probability of 90%. So what I'm doing here is creating a constant pattern that happens like constantly, but sometimes it doesn't. And that's where the kind of randomness happens, where most of the time it's going to be at this certain BPM, this rate that I've set here, 1 hertz. But sometimes it'll be not happening. And then down here, this one is 2 hertz, and it always happens. And now that's going into two sets of sequencers. So these two first rows are pretty damn similar with their settings. But I changed a few things around. So like this is like an exact copy. These are slightly different. But I'm triggering this sequencer to be at a constant pace. So the act of changing the pitch, because they're all plugged into the pitch here, is specifically defined by this ADDR sequencer. So we're basically like, this will always change the pitch of every single one of these four. And then down here, it's the same exact thing. So these are kind of just like two basic level things here. And then we use burst, which is a burst generator, and we're triggering the burst. It's kind of funny. We're doing like this one, which always happens. It's triggering the burst. Whereas with this, it's kind of like sometimes happening, changing the specific step in the sequence or the pitch. So this wasn't really a decision on like, I knew exactly what I was going to do. This was just experimentation. So one of them is, both of them are being triggered by this constant 2 hertz, rate with 100% probability, and it's going through the same thing. So we're taking the pitch and we're triggering it with this burst generator. These are kind of going at the same pace, besides the time when it doesn't hit because the they're going at the same pace. I'm mixing things up. They're going at the same pace and they're being triggered at the same exact time by this random down here. I could have just made this clock, but the random works fine. And then we're taking these outputs right now to be like the triggers for all these. So it's like a set of triggers, and you can see it here. If I pull up a scope, I can show you exactly what's kind of happening. So we're getting these triggers, and they're happening at the same exact time, basically, every time that this is triggered. And we're doing like layering of all the drums, so change pitch, layer, layer, and now it's a bit weird because I do go into here first, and then I go from here into here. So, funnily enough, this guy here is actually doing nothing. It should really be like changed around, but the sound sounds good, so I'm not gonna touch it. That's one of the things that you get in modular synth, where like even if this is doing nothing, I kind of don't want to touch it because I'm like, well, whatever. It may affect other things. This one, of course, won't. It's just not connected to anything. But up here, I do a better job of making sure stuff is connected. But it's kind of funny. I do this like layering, and then I double back to this middle one, and then I go here. In any case, I do these wave shapers. This one is to like soften the sound. Again, everything I'm doing here is like, there's a certain level of like, if I think about things seriously, I can be like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do to make this sound in this certain way. But there's also a fun thing where you like turn off your brain and you're like, I want to make this sound quieter. Let me just do wave shaper, turn it down, see what happens. And you get a different sound from it. So in any case, all of these are basically just similar. It's like two sets of drums that are kind of being at the same time, except one of them is happening a little bit like softer, and then the other is a bit hard hitting. Now, we have this, which is funny, which is we're sequencing all these pitches, but then I'm adding additional pitches on here because I figured if I turn this knob, I got some different sounds out of it. So we're adding pitches here and we're triggering them again with this random, so it's at a constant pace. Down here, I just wanted a really heavy hitting drum, so I have this wave shaper, and then I can add even more, punch to it. Of course, at this point, we're cutting out frequencies, so if I do it like all the way like this, it won't sound good. And I'll get to playing the sounds in a moment. So we have this first drum, we have this second drum, then down here is just a sequencing thing. Again, we're using this one is the percent chance one, and we're triggering this, and then we're doing the 2 hertz one, the always happening one, as the trigger for the sound itself, not the pitch. So it's kind of a fun like alternation, not really alternation, but one of them has a percent chance to change the pitch, and the other is like always happening. So this is how you kind of get that like pattern, but also at the same time consistency. You're hearing a sound and it's consistent until it switches, and then it's off consistency, and then it's consistent for a bit, and then it's off. It's kind of that controlled consistency to an extent. And then the last one over here, well, we got this one, then this one is just part of these, which has this guy, which is pretty simple. We're triggering everything kind of in the same way. This one's getting clock from this burst, which I just randomized a couple of times to get something interesting. Octave from here, of course. Trigger from this burst. And the trigger itself is from this random. And then down here is similar. It is trigger affecting this, going to this output, octave, and then separately we're doing like the alternation again. So constant one and a non-constant one. So let's get to the sounds. Let's start with this first one. Let's put a scope down so you can see what's happening. Hopefully it's not too loud. So you have this constant clickiness, and then some like kind of changing depending on the sequencing. If I like, if you change the pitch, it gets interesting. Okay, next, sound. I'm gonna just do sound by sound. Very similar. This one's kind of just a click as a layer thing. It's really not doing much, but it's in there. Next one. I wanted something kind of melodic and more constant, so I'm pretty sure it's this one. Yeah. So in this one, we're basically doing this sound section here. And we're doing wave shape because if I don't, it's too quiet. So I'm cutting off frequencies, but I'm kind of happy with that to get the desired sound. And as per the normal, sometimes it's triggering, sometimes it's not. Who knows? Next, we have this one, which is just the collection of this. So let's start here. So this is a fun sound. Every once in a while it happens. And we get like a burst. Now, of course, the trigger is from a funny thing of smooth output, which is also what I do here, which means that like it's only going to trigger when it hits a high enough value. And because we're randomizing the direction, it doesn't happen often. But I can just like, you get the sound. So it's like this bassier sound and then this high pitched sound. It's kind of farty, but when you're in this business, you make a lot of fart sounds. Okay, then next we have this guy. Just a really heavy bass. This one, like if I turn it all the way up, it was too much. So I did this, and then I can like really play around with specifics on this one. I mean, truthfully, this is doing nothing, and I can just go, and it will be the same thing. But having the option to add more is kind of nice. So this is constant, clock, whatever you want to call it. Then, last but not least, kind of a bell, but it's like chopped off a little bit. And it's all just depending on this step sequencing. So let's start adding things in. Kind of like it without the drum. This is better because it's kind of just textural. In any case, I just wanted to show you that. It's a cool idea. You should definitely play with Crust. I have this idea for a future project. If I ever had a large budget, I would make a physical modular synth that's just like, I don't know, like a shitload of Crust modules. Sorry for cussing, but just a bunch of them. I don't know an exact number. I'd have to plan out the size, but like I feel like 20 would be too small. It'd be very expensive for sure. But the idea that you could just randomize a bunch of settings and get some crazy drums. And I also had an idea of recording a drum pack using Crust. But that's like a hard project because I'm not fully sure how to do the recording of that, as in like being able to press a button and then it triggers Crust while at the same time recording. And I don't want to record and then do like, well, okay, if I had Pro Tools, I could definitely like just record a bunch of stuff in VCV Rack, and then I could do like tapped transient and slice all the sounds and then do it that way. But currently, I don't have that method, so my ideal would be like pressing some button to record in some way, and that would basically like also trigger the sound and record and then stop recording at the same exact time, like in the right amount of time, which is hard because samples have a certain length, and there isn't really like an end of cycle thing. Like typically when you have certain things like let me pull up something as an example here. Rampage has like an end of cycle, which means that like once it hits the bottom, it'll send a trigger. So if I trigger something, then it'll send out a signal once it hits the end of the cycle. So if I do like a long rise here, then after a certain amount of time, it'll hit the end of cycle and whatever. But the Crust itself doesn't have that. So in theory, maybe there's some way to do like envelope and do like envelope follower in a way where once the value hits 0, like there's absolutely no sound coming out of it, it presses stop to record. Um, and truthfully, a lot of these problems I just figure out by talking through it because that feels like a valid solution. Like you do something, you like think about this, like I don't know if there's a specific envelope follower, but there is envelope out. And then maybe there's something with that. Like if I go here, flip out, what does this kind of look like? Trigger it with something temporarily. I don't know. But at the very least, technically, you don't need an envelope follower because this is one. But you need some math thing, that some like if statement, if 0, send signal, stop record. If I could figure that out, or if you guys have an idea for that, that'd be great because I would love to just like get a bunch of crusts together, randomize them, press a singular button, and have it record a sample, and then make some like large drum pack of just like some crazy crunchy sounds. Um, but let me know if you do. In any case, I just wanted to show this off. I thought it was really cool. I'm going to leave it off here. Who knows what more I'll post. I started doing work at a place, so my time is not 100% free. But I like VCV Rack, so maybe I'll switch to posting more about that. All right. Love you guys. Goodbye.